Welcome back to the channel, everybody. In this video, can you guess what we are going to go over? Really? No guesses? Well, for those of you that didn't guess correctly, we are going to show you how to properly lay subfloor so that we get a squeak-free assembly. Should we start that over again? Welcome back to the channel, everybody. In this video, can you guess what? Okay, I'm gonna skip all that. We are gonna show how to properly lay subfloor. We're gonna show you the best glue on the market, the fasteners that we like to use, our approach so that we get a squeak-free assembly that is nice and strong. So I wanna thank our sponsor, Huber Engineered Woods, the makers of Advantech Subfloor that you see there, the Advantech Subfloor Adhesive, foam to polyurethane gel, zip system, and all that other good stuff. You can check that out in the link in my description. Okay, so let's get into it. Step number one, send up your drone. Just kidding. Step one is measure in from each side, 48 inches, tack a nail and snap a line. Now, you and I might disagree whether we should go 48 or 48 and a quarter and all that good stuff. I like to go 48 so that when I cut off the tongue on the back there on the rim on the left, I have a nice solid connection of my subfloor to the rim. You could go 48 and a half if you wanted. I don't think it's gonna affect anything. This is just my preference, okay? As you can see, it was a nice, sunny, beautiful day when we started this process. Unfortunately, we started the process late in the day and we were only able to get a few rows down. You will see by the change of clothes that here in the Pacific Northwest, we have a change in seasons. Okay, row number one. Lay out all of your joists. So you notice that my seam is centered on a joist.
Okay, you're tacked. I'm gonna lay
These
out
were all
then.
Roseburg 70 series eye joists. I'm laying out 2 foot on center, and I'm gonna pull all the joists right to layout. That's gonna keep us straight the rest of the way. One other thing you notice where I'm standing on the right, that is a shear wall that goes from the basement slab up to the underside of the floor sheathing. Our engineer called that detail out so that we can fasten the subfloor right to it. Now I'm gonna show you a whole lot more as we go because I'm gonna leave, I think, this entire video in real time. I didn't speed anything up. Double joist right where I was at. I'm gonna mark those so that we can find them later when we're snapping lines for our floor layout. I'm going to try to stay organized in my approach and not cover too much at a time because that's my tendency. The first row is always the slowest as we find our rhythm. We want to make sure that the sheathing is straight so that it's all tacked to the line. As you can see, I did the layout. We also want to fasten it completely to all of the framing members, including the joist, the rim joist, that is parallel with the long edge of the sheet. So that would be the edge behind me. We want to fasten it completely, and the reason is because we will use sledgehammers and block to get the tongue into the groove. I want to state right up front, and I'm going to say this more than once throughout the video, never beat the sheets tight. Notice on the left and the right, the butt joints, I have 1/8 inch gap. We're also going to maintain that 1/8 inch gap at the tongue and groove joint, so along the long edge. It is imperative, I cannot overstate this enough, that we make sure that we have a 1/8 inch gap all the way around the panels.
You okay?
1/8 inch gap. Okay, so you get the point. Now, why is that? It's because the sheet goods come out at an extremely low moisture content. So they're going to take on the humidity of the air around, and also they could get snowed on. For us, they will get rained on. They will be wet until the roof is on and the panels dry. Linear expansion. It is a documented phenomenon. It happens to your hardwood as well. It's the same thing like why we acclimate hardwood, right? So that it doesn't have to be gapped. Our subfloor needs to be gapped. Because we're using manufactured eye joists, these are engineered, it's an engineered wood product. LVL top and bottom flanges in this case with an OSB web. These are the Roseburg 70 series, as I mentioned. They come out nice and straight and light. What you saw there was I was tacking everything down to layout, then I'm gonna go through the field and nail it all off. But we already talked about that. This is the Advantech Subfloor Adhesive with the long barrel. For those of us that have hand squeezed tubes of glue, just general subfloor adhesive like the quart tubes, this is like the easiest thing on the planet. We all secretly want to just keep gluing. It's like the best job in this whole process because it's lightweight. There's something about the sound. Here, let me just let you listen. If you want, I could record that, play it on a loop. It's like the perfect white noise to go to sleep. Just kidding. By the way, did you see me lift that with my legs? I did not bend over. Anyway, we're gonna come back to the glue issue because I'm gonna show it again. It's not an issue. It is a foam glue that, through chemistry, reduces to polyurethane gel. That's right. It's like mesmerizing to watch. The dispenser's super lightweight. We went through only 2 cans for this entire house. A little over 2 cans. It works out to be, this is like the 5th time that we've done this, actually calculated the total square footage by the number of cans. We keep coming in right at 20 to 21 sheets, 4x8 sheets per can. Okay? Anyway, like I mentioned, they're sponsoring this video. I'm gonna come back and revisit fastening. But we're going to do that later in the video. We're going to show a little bit more. I just really wanted to show the subfloor going down in the sunshine. And did you notice? Because we're fortunate enough to have a telehandler on site, watch how I grab the sheets. I'm not picking them up. Slide them onto the ground. One of the beautiful things about Advantech, it is a very dense product. Yes, don't slam your sheets onto the tongue edge onto the ground. But we also don't need to baby these panels. So I can slide the sheet off, and then I can slide it into place. Save your body, people. Advantech is heavy. You want to know the reason why it's heavy? Because of the glues and resins in it. That's what gives it its density. That's what gives it its weight, which is kind of, can be difficult. But the other thing that all those resins and glues gives the panel, durability and an amazing warranty. Okay, enough of that. Let's just focus on how are we going to install the subfloor productively. But we're not going to break any speed records, but we're going to end up with a really high quality installation. Well, let's get into that. This is literally the next morning, right? Okay, so we had the beautiful weather. As Cliff Mast, the climatologist at the University of Washington, says, every October what happens is the bottom falls out. And the weather changes. Anyway, this was September. I digress. Here is the Advantech Subfloor Adhesive again, not in the heat. Notice how it comes out a dark purple, kind of maybe a little bit lighter purple, and then as it reduces to that darker purple. That's what you want. You want to shake the can for 45 seconds minimum before putting it on the dispenser. And you really want to hear that fluid inside. Anyway, we're going to come back to that at the end of this video. We're going to glue everything, all of the framing members. The blocks, the beams, the doublers, everything else. I like to do all of the joists first with the glue and then come back and do the blocks. It's just, it's a rhythm thing. It's all about the rhythm, baby. All about the rhythm and the bass. I think I've used that joke before, but it kills. Okay, now I run through and do the block. I'm sorry. I know that this video is sponsored, but I've been using this glue since 2017 when it first came out. Nice. And it's amazing. Look how fast that went. And it's lighter than a pneumatic glue gun or a battery-powered glue gun. So enough of that. Also, I'm gonna link to it above here to show you a video where I glued a 2x6 to some eye joists and then hung from it with no fasteners. So anyway, I'm a believer. I'm a believer. One of the things that we want to do, this is per our engineering, and you'll find it in most of the guidelines, if not all. I just haven't checked them all, so I can't say. We want to start with an 8-foot sheet, and then our next row would be a 4-foot sheet, or vice versa. But the point is we're trying to center the cut panel on the full-size factory panel. That's the method that we use because that's what our engineer wants. All the diaphragm ratings are rated off of that. You'll notice that I am using a sledgehammer, and the instructions say don't use a sledgehammer. Why do you think that is? Because too many people beat the sheets tight. But the fact of the matter is we need a hammer that's heavy enough to slide those sheets so that the tongue is engaged in the groove. But as I mentioned before, and I will mention many, many times, we want an eighth of an inch gap. By the way, that's the Passlow TetraGrip subfloor nailer, but I'll get into that in just a moment. I know.
Probably broke my hip.
Well, and I can always beat that in too. I think that'll be fine. It comes down to really how you use the tool. So one-handed on the one side, sometimes the two sides. Now, why is it? What's the difference? Or why would I have to sometimes hit it harder? One is if I miss. Depending on how long our sheathing has been on site and how they've been separated into units, it might be that some are slightly more swollen than others. The reality is, I'm not gonna try to kick the sheets into place. That's a young person thing. Don't do that. It's hard on the knees, the back, the hips.
Yeah, I can just tap it.
Let the sledgehammer do the work. That's what we call an endo. But again, I'm not gonna beat the sheet tight. Okay. You notice that before I nail it, I was checking those gaps again. Now, as the guy, we call it...
Yeah, go for it.
So, you have the glue guy.
That look okay?
You have the beater boy.
Bigger, so
and then you have the nailer.
I think that's fine.
So if we had 3 people, that's kind of what the roles end up being. Since there was 2 of us, we switch off roles.
8 is a good guideline, but it's always feels like more.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna mark the blocks. Looks good to me.
As the framer who's
that's good. I can
sliding the sheets together with a sledgehammer, I'm gonna carry that Passload XP nailer with me. It's got 8-penny ring shank nails so that I can tack the sheets in place. One thing I forgot to mention earlier is that there's about 20-minute working time. So what that means is we need to get the subfloor laid and fastened in less than 20 minutes. Now, for an experienced crew, that's pretty easy to do, 1 row at a time. Some people, they like to glue and then set a sheet, fasten it, glue, set a sheet. That's slower. You're gonna get good results, but it's a lot slower. If you get efficient at this, we're easily under the 20-minute rule. But it's just a good thing to keep in mind, keep track of. Now, in this particular case, Kyle was doing most of the packing and setting.
Oh, come on.
I was doing the nailing and then sliding the sheets together. As I mentioned, this is the Passload TetraGrip subfloor nail. This nail is specially designed actually to eliminate the need for glue at all, but we're a belt and suspenders type of people, so we're gonna do both. You actually get a stiffer floor and the joist will span farther if you glue and fasten. I think technically it's even glue and nail. But anyway, I'm not trying to break any speed records with the nailing. You know what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to hit those dots on the panel so that I have the number of nails that I need to hold the panel down for its rating, and so that I don't miss and end up with squeaks later. I want Huber's squeak-free guarantee, squeakfreeguarantee.com. Back to the TetraGrip nail. This nail is specially designed. It's a deformed nail, like a ring shank, but it's like a ring shank nail on steroids. I'm not kidding. We've tried to pound up shiners. It ain't happening. You just cut them. After the fact, I've tried to pull some of these nails and the heads come off. You're not pulling the shank. You're not gonna pull that nail out of the joist. That being said, let's just not miss. By going a little bit slower, we're going to end probably the same amount of time as some of those crazy crews you see on social media where the guys are like, they look like they're dancing on the panels, but that's how they're setting panels. Yeah, and don't wait to fasten your floor. Do it as you go. Anyway, that's just the old guy in me speaking. We're a family business. We've been in business for almost 45 years. Guess who gets to fix squeaks, if there are any? You guessed it, me. I don't want to fix squeaks. Although if it's raining outside. Okay, gap the panel. Did you see I got the panel a little too tight? So that's why I love that chisel. That is the oldest tool on the job site next to me. I'm almost 45. That chisel's probably a good 20 years old. Anyway, I just wanted to guarantee that I had that gap. Fasten the corners. Now I'm going to go on to the next sheet. But I don't want to forget my trusty chisel, which I still have. I have not yet lost it. I once did lose it in the van for like 6 months, and I was so sad. I'm not kidding. It really bummed me out. I would rather have my, well, I don't know about that. I was going to say I'd rather have my hammer taken, but that's not true. I love that Martinez hammer. Anyway, Kyle found it when we cleaned out the van, and I was so happy. It was like, anyway. I'm marking in the block because I'm going to snap a line. Notice how the blocks are directly over the garage wall below, which is sheathed with 7/16 OSB. That is a shear wall. I need to fasten the floor diaphragm down to the blocking, which in this case was nice and easy. It was a straight line. But I want to snap a line so that I can go through 6 inches on center, nail my subfloor down to the blocks, which are also glued. Those blocks are nailed into the bottom plates below. That helps to transfer the diaphragm from the floor load down through the shear wall into the foundation. I just want to go slow, not super slow, but I want to go slow so that everything is done right. It turns out that our parents and grandparents, they were right. If we slow down a little and we do it right the first time, we actually will save time in the long run. The first time that we used the TetraGrip nailer, we did not like it. It's a little hard to find the rhythm, and that's why I pull the trigger for every nail instead of bounce firing. Also, it's best to crank the pressure. It actually comes with the 3/8 fittings and a larger hose, and that's what the rep from Pass Load told me. Make sure that you supply enough air. Once you get that and you get the rhythm, it's pretty easy. Sometimes it can be a little finicky getting the nails in the plastic collation, but I mean, isn't that true of all collation at some point? Really no complaints. The gun is just a little bit heavier, but the holding power of these nails is unreal. In fact, Pass Load has some information on their website regarding that. It's pretty crazy. So we're using the best subfloor on the market, we're using the best glue on the market, and we're using the best nail on the market. And we're using the best looking framers on the market. So just a plug for those two guys.
4 foot setback, should I cut that?
Nah.
Back, or just fill the 2?
Yeah. And we'll see what we have for scrap too. Yeah.
Good question by Kyle there. Since we have a small piece at the end, should we have cut the 8-foot sheet back? And the answer is no. We already did our 4-foot stagger on the other end. There's just no point in cutting the sheet short, and we're gonna be able to use up scrap. The beam that he's standing on right there took the place of one joist and is going to carry the point load from the ridge. So that's why it's there, and the beam kind of in the background, same thing.
Like it?
Inside the ram.
Okay, so here's the story from back in the day. I used to work with a guy who I will not say, but his name rhymes with Brian, but is not Brian. And we had so much fun.
If you want,
Great sense of humor. He was the original awesome framer. He used to do what he described as streak nailing, which was basically hold the gun down and go as fast as possible. And you know what? He never missed. It was actually really, really well done. I, however, am not a streak nailer. Brian, guy that rhymes with Brian, if you ever hear this, you're still a legend on our job site, bro. I miss you. I do have a video linked right here where I did go over the cost of the different fasteners and what our preference is. That's like maybe 2.5 years old. I've changed my mind. So anyway, this is kind of the update to that. This allows us to not have to come back and screw off a floor later. Although, again, as the general contractors, once the house is dried in and the floor dries out, we will come back with the Simpson quick drive cordless auto feed stand-up drill gun. We're gonna go ahead and just fasten it again anyway. We just don't want any squeaks. I completely trust the glue and the nails, but I also like the peace of mind of knowing there is literally nothing else we could have done. And so if there's a squeak, then at least I get to blame it on the hardwood guys, or I don't know. I'll accept responsibility, but we're just trying to minimize that. We don't like callbacks. right there in the floor, that's our other point load. In the previous videos, we talked about it, but there was like, I think a 6x10 that I put on top of the wall. Anyway, I always go a little bit bigger. 6x6 was enough, but we had chunks of 6x10, so that's what I did. Again, notice how as the glue comes out, it's foam. Dark colored foam quickly reduces to gel. I mean, it's just like, chemistry is pretty cool, I have to say. And again, I've done the wing nut testing, as they say, and I am a believer in this glue because if it can hold me up, it actually held 3 of us up. Kyle and Shane and I did a video a few years back where all 3 of us were hanging from the same piece that was only fastened to a few joists. Yeah, the glue is unreal.
I think sometimes I outrun the glue.
I'm definitely faster than Dwight. Here's the video that proves it. Okay, everybody, I'm gonna show you just how fast I am. Are you ready for this? Like butter. Whew.
I think we still got some. Not that much.
Yeah, it always feels like it runs out the compressed air first, huh?
Yeah, but I think I still got quite a bit. I think what it is I guarantee you now that I've stopped.
Gotta build up some pressure. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh, think it's cold?
Yeah.
It's not that cold, though.
It's not that cold.
I'm sweating.
Right? Nice, nice.
One thing to note, I didn't outrun the glue, but I do think that there's a certain speed it comes out of that nozzle, and that, especially with the longer barrel, I think you can outrun that. It definitely was not too cold. We've laid this down to about freezing. The beautiful thing about this glue is it's moisture cured. You can put it down on wet and frozen wood. That is directly from the product literature. We've done it. When you do that, go ahead and let the cans warm up in the truck on the way to work. It will come out of the gun quicker. When it's cold, it doesn't want to come out quite as fast, but if you just get them good and warm in the van or the truck, then no problem at all. No problemo.
Okay, now I think we can get it.
Kind of feels like a fatter sheet.
I just needed a fat guy on it. Ah! Yeah, I'm beating the crap out of this block. We might have to, do we have a
It feels like it's just a little fatter, like if you feel it.
Yeah. Let me attack this. You know what we can do?
Like it's
If we get that 2x4 off the pile and stick it under this, it'll prop it up enough.
What can happen is you have sheets that are slightly different thickness, but that's generally not the issue. We're right over that beam with hangers on both sides, and the row stopped, what, like 6 inches short? So let me show you how we overcome that. And it doesn't leave a hump in the floor.
just try to get it in on an angle.
Yeah. Let's see if I can do this. Ah, sometimes we have to grab a 4x.
Hey. Yep.
Is it in?
Yeah, it's in now.
Good enough, or?
I would give it maybe a couple more taps. Maybe one down there then.
You know what? Let me pop this block out real quick.
Let's dip the splitters.
Okay. Yeah. Do I need to give it an endo? Pretty good?
Good in there, yeah.
I'm gonna do that. Okay, yeah. And then the beam, I'm just gonna mark basically here. Okay.
The point of the handle is to avoid bending over.
Now, we may have to do the same thing here, I don't know.
Yeah, these sheets are kind of wonk, huh? Oh, yeah, see, it's like... Yeah, it's just
So it's not that there's such a difference in thicknesses or height, like the beam is off, the hangers are off. Honestly, it's the top flanges on the hangers and the nails is just enough friction that instead of trying to just beat the living daylights out of the thing, if you prop it up a little, that gives you just enough height over the top of those nails and the metal flanges on the hangers to get the tongue into the groove and started. Then we can pop out the 2x4 and finish it.
Is it going at all? Maybe I'll do this side first. That side actually is even over here. Maybe I'll just do this side.
Yeah, that actually looks pretty good.
Okay. Okay, I'll tack it, and we should be good after that, I think. You know, I look good up here. Yeah, I'll just lightly tap it. Yeah, I'm gonna call that because the top here, yeah.
Sometimes you can really see the sheets out of it.
Let's see if nope.
I feel like this one might go though.
I think we can get this one.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Stretch out. Stretch. Oh yeah, that side's in.
That was easy. This guy's pretty good. I might just... Come on, Timmy. You can do it, man. You can do it.
Hey, man.
Call that. Yeah, I'm gonna call that. Yeah. Okay. I'll let you get a couple sheets ahead.
To avoid stepping on coils of nails, we keep the coils in one spot underneath the sawhorses over there. So I'm trying to think ahead. I know I'm going to start nailing. I've got a couple sheets ready for me. I don't remember what the gun had as far as nails, but I'm going to make sure I bring some with me. And then sometimes I forget. So best laid plans, see, I ran out. Best laid plans of mice and men, or something like that. I have to say, I've never really enjoyed bending over and nailing. And I'm gonna say I still don't really enjoy it, although it's not that big of a deal. It's not that difficult. It's not like 10,000 square feet of subfloor, right? I think what is this, like 1,800 on the main floor, something like that. Anyway, I really have enjoyed going a little bit slower. You can feel with the gun when you've hit solid meat. And so when we get done, it's like, yeah, yes, we can go underneath and check for shiners, but we're not gonna find them, except for an odd one here or there, because, you know, we're imperfect. But especially at the edges, so remember what our nailing schedule is. 6 inches at the 4-foot seams, 12 inches in the field. So those, I think it's the square stamped markers there, because we're on 2-foot centers. I think they're all square. Okay, I spoke out of turn. So the field are square, the edges are round. What was I talking about? 6 inches on the edges, 12 inches through the field, or intermediate joists. That's what the PASO literature shows, and then they give you a rating. That's what the code shows, and that's what the panel manufacturers say. Now, it's okay to put a few more in the field if you want, 12 would be the bare minimum. But since I got the dots, I'm just gonna aim for them. Knowing that I aim for it and that our joists are on layout, I got the peace of mind of knowing what I'm hitting what I'm aiming for. If I could just get that handle to stop. Okay, so here's the trick with the handle. Cut another 6 inches off of it. Basically, you want to be able to straddle it without tipping it. Like if you walk over it, this one was a little too tall. So whatever your inseam is for your pants, subtract 6 inches. Here you get a better view of what I was talking about. Notice the glue lamb and the top flange hangers. And then of course we have the nail heads on those hangers. When the seam, the groove edge gets close to that, that's when it's kind of annoying or a bit of a hassle like you saw. But in this case, it's not gonna be the case because we're gonna go right over that. Now Kyle's cutting this sheet back, and the reason is that this beam landed on the edge of the building. Notice the rim behind him, which is also layout.
Yeah,
so to keep that line smooth and catch the wall up above, which goes from 2x6 to 2x4, carries the point load, we just needed to trim this sheet. Not a big deal. It just hung off the edge just slightly.
I think last time we might have.
It wasn't because we got our spacing wrong, I promise.
Thing in there.
Normally it doesn't fall over like that, but it did because the camera was on. See, that's the issue. As soon as you turn the camera on, that's when dumb things happen. Also when the camera is off. I know that that pass load nailer is going to be needed when we start from the other end and work down, you know, glue, bring the sheets over, etc. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it over there. Do you know how many times or how long it took me not to leave the beater board and the sledgehammer at one end, but carry it to where you're going to start? Now you notice I did leave it in this case because Kyle has one more sheet to put in. Notice in the background, Kyle was not wailing on the sheets. He's standing on the tongue and groove just to help him line up. And notice that one-handed, he's just letting the weight, I think it's only an 8-pound sledge. He's just letting the weight tap those sheets together. So even though we call it the beater guy, or beater boy and glue guy, glue boy and beater man, sounds like superheroes, we're not beating the sheets together. Looks like it sometimes, but if you go down and walk the seams, and I should mention too, the panel says 1/8 gap all the way around. I aim for more like 3/16 at that tongue and groove because I know we're gonna get a ton of water. And I don't know, it's just me. Give the panels just a little extra room to move. And specifically that's at the tongue and groove or the 8-foot edge. On the 4-foot edges, we're gonna go with the 1/8. These panels are, quote, sized for spacing, meaning that the panels are just under 8 feet to allow for that gap. See the nails pre-staged? Yeah, somebody's thinking about something. Also set the depth on the nails so that the nail heads are not proud, and if they are proud, beat them down with your hammer. Because when you go down on one knee while you're snapping lines, I don't know how many times I've put my kneecap right into a nail head. Ugh. Don't worry, I'm not gonna make you watch this entire thing in real time. As riveting as that is, you get the point, right? We've covered the basics on how to install it properly, and we're pretty efficient at it too. I know you're all faster than us, but at least we're older.
Here comes the garbage truck.
Every time I was about to talk to the camera, the garbage truck came down, then the recycle, and then they turned around and they came back. Anyway, you can hear the fluid in the can. Shake it for a minimum of 45 seconds.
Definitely gonna be skipping this. Okay, let me run you through real quickly how to swap the cans out on these when you're in between. So like, we're gonna start gluing the floor. This was the can from yesterday. There is a technique to this because we don't want to get glue all over the basket. Okay, so at the end of the day, trigger is locked out. So I'm gonna unlock it. And what I wanna do into like a box of nails, thanks a lot, garbage truck. Okay, and we're just gonna wait another minute. Murphy's Law. Okay, so I'm gonna set up that guy there. Okay, let me run you through the technique for taking a can off of a gun and putting a new can on. So we're in the middle of sheeting the floor and this one's spent, we wanna put a new can on. First of all, shake the can while it's by itself, not on the gun. It's just a lot easier. You wanna shake this for 30 seconds. Now, here's the technique. Yesterday when we left, we lock out the trigger. Now I'm gonna open the valve and I'm gonna just expend everything that's left in the can. And I'm gonna do that into like an old box of nails. That way it's not getting on anybody. Once this thing is entirely spent, the reason I like to do that is so nothing bubbles up out of the basket when I put the next can on. Okay, so that is done. I'm gonna go ahead and lock this out again. Take this guy off. Now there is a little bit on here, so I'm gonna go ahead and just do this with the cleaner. I'm gonna pull the trigger just to let anything go through the barrel. Now I'm gonna put that can on. Now I'm just gonna screw this can on. Okay, now the can's on, I'm opening the valve. Now that the can is on, I'm just gonna, into the same box, blow out the cleaner and the last of the foam. Okay, we are ready. This guy can dispose of. Don't step in that box.
Those cans can be recycled. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you in the next video. Hit that like and subscribe button.